assistant referee on this near side, Claudio Lasano, and said that yes it did, and it's going to be a put in for Canada into the line out. Slapped back for Dala. Canadian forwards converging around it now. They come around the corner. Cudmore leading the way. Last week he was in Clermont's colours as they gave Stade Francais quite a beating. I'm sure Zach Talafu was quite pleased he was playing for his country, not his club. Albeit, of course, he lost out in Italy. Well, David Lemmy trying to poke something as Gordon McRorie desperately trying to take hold of that ball. For the Canadians, it's really about getting themselves into this game, quarter of an hour gone, and not really able to mount an attack worthy of the name. As I mentioned, it's a disappointing summer with losses to Japan, Scotland and USA, especially after the summer before, which was so effective for Kieran Crowley's side. Fotuali'i trying to work his way back down that left flank, but Conor Braid ready and waiting. He's not going to find touch though. And Ahsee Tuala invites his teammates to join in a counter-attack from their own half. Great footwork from Fotuali'i and indeed from Census Johnston to keep that going. In fact, I've got a feeling that was actually Ray Lilo, the debutant outside centre, but great work from Samoa in keeping the momentum into these attacks, and this is what they want to do, get the consistency. Oh, the little chip over the top, not helping Hasler. Missed that Namibian game with injury, the Ospreys winger. DTH van der Merwe stepping in as scrum half, but again not finding that touchline, and again it's just going to allow the Samoans to come back at them with more and more force and pace. Alofa stopped in his tracks, but Samoa into opposition territory once again. Quite a clearance. Census Johnston gets the ball away to Dan Leo. Looking to peel back to the right-hand side. Now they go to the left. Again, it's Johnston, one of the bigger playmakers, perhaps, in world rugby. Loves to get his hands on the ball. Former Saracens and Biarritz prop, of course, part of that 2006 Biarritz team that lost the Heineken Cup final to Munster on that memorable day at the Millennium Stadium. So Stanley offered another opportunity. And really, even a 6-0 scoreline would not really reveal the territorial advantage and the possession that Samoa have had through this first quarter. So Mike Stanley's fledgling international career well underway now. Second successful kick from the Samoa 10. And the 6-0 scoreline will please not only the coaches, but no doubt Stanley himself as well. Ciaran Hearn with the restart, taken by Trevor Annis. Loses the ball in the contact. Now, can Canada make something of this unexpected pass? No, not there. It's going to give them a scrum put in. Inevitably, the traction is going to be difficult for some of those forwards on this southern turf. Alofa, we just saw in vision there, winning his 30th cap this evening. As I said, the only forward member that is still a starter after last weekend against the Azzurri. Well, the Samba beat kicks out from the stands. And the fans joining in, now hoping that they can see the Canadians mount an attack on this Samoa line. Pick up is from Jebb Sinclair. The ball is again in Samoa hands. The pass not helping. Ahsee Tuala, the new fullback. Numbers 15, 14 and 13 for Samoa, all on debut today. The snipe down the side from Gordon McRorie. The Scot being ushered into touch in no uncertain terms there. McRorie, Scottish by birth, but qualifying for Canada through residency. As you can see, just looking to make that break. Sent back from whence he came by his opposite number. McRorie has the capacity to play both 9 and 10. Played fly half indeed against the USA and against Uruguay. Scrum half against Argentina in the America's Rugby Championship recently. He made his debut against Japan in June in Vancouver. Stanley made his debut against the Azzurri in Ascoli last week. Hasler with the ball to his fullback, and I bet that James Pritchard was glad there wasn't too many Samoans hanging about in the vicinity when that pass came. You can see the difficulty in holding on to contact with that wet ball. Kick pass almost from Conor. Braid putting pressure on Alofa. Man who is plying his trade not too far from here, down at La Rochelle. Formerly New South Wales Waratah. In fact, his last match for them was the Super Rugby final, when of course they beat the Crusaders in that real nail-biter. What was it, 33-32? Canada trying to get themselves into this game now. Kick chase comes from Pritchard. Good take though from his opposite number. Testing, catching the skills with the wet ball now. Saw McRorie take his eye off the ball there. And good clean-up work from Nanyak Dala, the open side. Another big hit from Alofa. Buydens. Looking to struggle his way up towards halfway. Little box kick from McRorie, but didn't really look to see where Tuala was, and the Samoan fullback had plenty of time. Effective turnover. Well, again, the penalty goes against the Canadians. And you wonder how patient George Clancy is going to be. I guess the best thing is that in terms of the geography of the pitch, it hasn't often been inside the 22. But the penalties have kept coming against the red shirts. Tuala actually plays for Counties Manukau with Mike Stanley and has in fact kept him out of the 10 shirt. I think Stanley's only had a couple of starts all season really for Counties Manukau in the ITM Cup. And it's because Ahsee Tuala has been wearing that particular jersey. Right now though, it's Stanley in control of the 10 jersey and in control of the game. To add further score. Best part of 48 metres on this one, I would think. Well, no shortage of gas, but just losing direction there. Quarter of an hour left in this first half. Restart, this time kicking long and hard, forcing Samoa back into their own 22. Tuala getting good distance on that over the head of Van der Merwe. Look at the situation that Samoa found themselves in. Unbeaten in 3 matches before Italy, and indeed hadn't lost to the Azzurri in 5 years. Perhaps indicative of the turmoil that's going on off the pitch. Not the place to discuss it this evening, but everybody will no doubt be aware of the comments flying backwards and forwards between the squad and the management. Good, strong, powerful play from Trevor Annis. Tuala stepping in as the conduit. Stanley trying to get past Ciaran Hearn. Hearn and Trainor, a real combative midfield partnership. There's Trainor desperately trying to get his hand on it, and I think he's going to knock it on, and I think we might be about to see the first yellow. Consistent infringements from the Canadian side, and I think, as I thought moments ago, that George Clancy has had enough now. And it's Conor Trainor who's going to sit out the next 10. Off the ball incident, according to the referee from Cudmore, and there's a final warning, another final warning for the Canadian team, allowing Hubert Buydens to pull his teammates in, but really the penalty count has been astronomical in this first half against the men in red. So a bit of repair work going on as Mike Stanley lines up his 5th attempt of this first half. This relatively regulation 9-iron for the Samoa 10, duly converted, and his team move into a 9-0 lead now. Half an hour gone on the scoreboard, and this of course a crucial period for all the coaches as they look to keep their teams in this game, or indeed move their teams on, because points either side of half-time always seem to have psychologically added value. Overkicked there from Ciaran Hearn. It's going to give Samoa possession back on halfway once again. Interesting looking at Mo Fasavalu being so involved in this game. Had 8 years between his 7th and 8th cap for Samoa. 7th in 2003 after the Rugby World Cup. And then, of course, went away to Rugby League and played for Great Britain and indeed for England in the 13-man code before coming back, signing with Harlequins in 2010 and then representing Samoa against Japan the following year. There's Buekeboom going off. So John Phelan on, wearing 19 there. Disappointment for the Plymouth Albion second rower.
Power down, stable before the ball comes in. I want you to play, I want to see that shoulder. 5. Crouch. 5.
Gilmour in the red scrum cap on this near side. A real feel-good story, really, for Canadian rugby. Made his first start last weekend, but doing so well that he's actually turned professional now. Just 26 years of age. And really looking to make an impact on the professional game. Now, interesting setup for the Canadians, because you can see there Nanyak Dala has stepped in at scrum half, which allows McRorie to move in and fill that gap with Trainor in the sin bin. Of course, it means the scrum down to 7, but doesn't seem to have deterred them there. Call from George Clancy that Alofa were driven across from the Samoan loose head berth, and as we're looking now, some 6-7 minutes away from the break, it's going to give McRorie his first chance of points. Now, it was McRorie who had the tee last week and took 4 out of 4 with penalty opportunities, but the thinking was that with James Pritchard returning to the Canadian lineup, it would be he that was starting. Now, it may be the distance is the decisive factor. 50 metres. Has McRorie got that in his boot? We're about to find out. It's on its way. Has it got it? Yes, it has. Canada creep over the crossbar and get on the scoreboard with 6 minutes left of the first half, and a fantastic kick from their number 9, McRorie. And even with a man down, the Canadians able to get themselves on the scoreboard, and as I mentioned, psychologically, that will be a huge boost to the men in red. Oh, what a charge from the Ospreys winger, made such an impact. Actually got into the Pro 12 Dream Team last season, 7 tries he got. But the ball has come loose, and Samoa ever quick to respond. Relilo sets the ball back for his hooker this time, Oleave. And it doesn't matter who's at first receiver. In that case, it was Zach Talafu. Stanley, regulation 10, Yanni. Tulilo and Samoa try and work their way up towards that 22 again. Dan Leo, experienced pro, of course, 3 years actually in this country in France with Perpignan and Bordeaux-Bègles before returning to London Irish vocal about his desire to get physically fitter with a Premiership team in England rather than a top 14 team. Especially, of course, ahead of next year. A lovely, delicate dab over the top from Stanley. And that's a good advance for Samoa. And Mike Stanley beginning to really get confidence in his game now. Talking to Fotuali'i before the game, and he's told Stanley to boss the match, tell him what to do. Ignore the fact that Fotuali'i, 21 caps now for Samoa. The take by Gilmour, regulation number 2 jumper for Canada. First kick sends Alofa back into his own half. David Leamy calls and gets. Oh, delicate skills from Leamy, but they're anticipated by Pritchard. Looking at the caps, and it's number 58 for James Pritchard this evening. Made his debut, some 11 years ago now. McRorie feeds out to Marshall. Jason Marshall trying to get his team up to halfway, but losing the ball, and it's that man Farsavalu again. So influential, the Samoan 6, as is that man Trevor Annis. Scrappy ball from the contact area, and again you see the Samoan forwards just that hint of a sidestep, trying to dazzle the opposition with their footwork before they move forward.
Forward pass. Thanks.
Couple of minutes to go until the break, and for all the territory and possession that Samoa have had, they are looking at a scoreboard that has them only a score ahead, or under a score, of course, as Conor Trainor returns to take Canada back up to 15. Hubert, Buydens and Jason Marshall have actually been out in New Zealand playing in the ITM Cup, and the final saw Buydens packed down against Marshall. Buydens playing for Manawatu and Marshall for Hawke's Bay. Buydens victorious on that day, but getting good experience in the land of the long white cloud.
Crouch! Bang! Set! Stay near the scrum.
Canadian pack providing the ball for their scrum half and seem to be growing into the game. There's Hasler again, offering himself for the crash ball to take his team up to halfway. Oh, Cudmore almost getting in the way there. Ball coming on the bounce to Trainor. Braid running into a Samoan cul-de-sac there. Wrapped up, forcing Canada back.
Roll quicker, Bloom. Roll quicker.
George Clancy, who's ref both of these two teams, not that recently. I mean, Samoa refereed, he was telling me before the game back in June of this year, 35-degree heat in Apia on that occasion, but for the Canadians, well, that was 6 years ago against Scotland, and on that day it was snowing. So he'll be happy that it's neither of those, and indeed the rain has stopped. That earlier shower seems to have moved through, and this game has begun to bloom as a consequence. The take from Phelan. Again, the passing a little high, and you only need to give just a hint of presentation of your rib cage to the Samoans, and you kind of know what's coming. And I think Pritchard had an idea there as he came in to take that ball. Surpassed Gareth Rees' record as the Canadian all-time top point scorer. Racked up 569 points now, the 35-year-old fullback. Of course, a familiar figure around Goldington Road in England, 7 years now at Bedford Blues, a very popular figure. Australian by birth, but Canadian by dint of the red shirt that he's worn on all those occasions. Well, you can tell the confidence that now is ebbing through Mike Stanley's body, because he's brought this one back, which must be some 58 metres on the angle. He had the distance on the previous opportunity. Just didn't quite have the direction. There's musicians in the stand. Human iPod, if you will. Keeping the crowd entertained. And now watching as Stanley sends the kick on its way. Has it got enough? No, it just drops underneath. Well, confidence from the young man. He has managed to get 3 out of the 6 opportunities in that first half, which means that Samoa do have a 6-point lead. Canada getting themselves back in towards the end of that first 40. But they head for the hutches now with a scoreboard that reads Samoa 9, Canada 3. Join us again for the second half.